Had to shoot that rabbit. So a real Pentecost. And according to all of our calendars, everybody, y'all don't use printed calendars anymore, do you? Do you know I've got wall calendars?
I do.
Rooms. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
When does the calendar say Pentecost is?
Well,
Sunday. Oh,
Pentecost Sunday. Okay.
Sunday.
Which is the 31st day. This tells me our meeting will end in 10 minutes. So I guess we'll go ahead and let it expire when it expires, but we still have 10 minutes. Well, what does the word say Pentecost is? I remember where I was going to go was I never knew until I was an adult several years ago that the reality is that Pentecost, the 50th day, was 50 days after the deliverance through the Red Sea. As Passover was completed and the Israelites begin their journey, 50 days later, what happens? God shows up on Mount Sinai, and he gives the 10 commandments. It is a visitation from the Lord to establish covenant with his people.
Wow.
Okay. Now, what I didn't know till I was an adult, and this was an important revelation for me, and I had to prove it to myself again in the Word. Exodus 19, Leviticus 23, Acts chapter 2 are some of the places to look to prove this to yourself. But the instruction God gave in Leviticus included counting 50 days from the date of the Passover, which he had given, until what? What happens on the 50th day? What are you counting? You're counting the Omer, or the Omer, O-M-E-R. And the reason is the wheat is planted, and it takes 50 days to get to the first harvest. And that's when you give that first harvest all to the Lord. That's the offering of the first fruits. But that was to count the time from the original Passover. 50 days later, the law is given. Then for years and years and years and years and years, they celebrate the Passover. Well, after they got out of the wilderness, they couldn't really celebrate it there. But and then they plant, they harvest, and every year, and they go through these motions, and they just don't get it. You get to the New Testament, Jesus is here. He says, I am he, but they just don't get it. They continue to celebrate the Passover, celebrate the Pentecost, without understanding that their visitation has come. And so on the last Passover, when Jesus was sacrificed on the cross, of course, the Passover always involved the sacrifice of the lamb, and so many rich things about Jesus as our sacrificial lamb, the Passover lamb, being raised from the dead. 50 days later, now they're going to have their celebration of first fruits. How many days was Jesus on the earth after he was resurrected?
40 days, I think.
40 days. Mm-hmm. He was resurrected in 3 days, and then we've got 40 days, and then what happens?
He went to heaven. He went back to heaven.
He went to heaven in the transformation. Mm-hmm. Transfiguration is the word, right? Yeah. And what did he tell the disciples right before that?
He said, go and wait in Jerusalem.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And not many days from now, you will be visited, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We're hearkening back to that Passover, which was a deliverance to a brand new life. Now and then 50 days later, the covenant, which was the law God gave his people. Now we've got the real Passover lamb, who has established for us a new and better covenant. And 50 days later, the Holy Spirit, God himself, visits once again and delivers the Holy Spirit to his people in that upper room. When Jesus said, not many days from now, he's talking about they're used to counting the Omer. They know this process, but they didn't have any expectations of what he was going to do. So I'm just praying that in this time that has been unprecedented from day one, that's what I use, and we have experienced a kind of Passover like none of us have ever imagined. And now 50 days later, but that 50 days ends not Sunday, ends today. today is the 49th day. Tomorrow is the 50th day. And so beginning at sundown tomorrow begins the Shavuot or Pentecost. So let's be in prayer that the Lord will visit this nation in such a memorable way that we will all be changed. And we don't need another covenant because we've got the best and lasting covenant. But we need an empowerment. This nation, this world needs us to be emboldened as the disciples were in that upper room that day to go and share the good news. And what happened next? The world was set on fire by those men and women, 120 of them, who had the very presence of God inside them. And as we walk with the very presence of God inside of us, let us share that. Let us be able to help people understand that there is a power and a hope that is more than we can imagine to get us through not only this, but through to the other side. And let's set the world on fire again. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.